Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Commentary's Magic Stream on today, Sunday, May 26, 2019. I am, as always, Grandpaws.
Big Cheese.
The somewhat under the weather Arcat, and
The somewhat over the weather Ivory Starlight.
Are you especially healthy today?
Especially healthy today. Mainly because Con Crud is over with.
Woo!
I didn't get Concrete, I got food poisoning.
Oof. That's not woo. Well, we are glad to have you here, and a special welcome here to Ivory, as this is your first stream as a recurring regular. So, going to be glad to have you here for the future.
I'm glad to be here.
And we've got a lot to cover today, so we can just go ahead and jump on in, because Everfree was kind of an event that happened last week. And last weekend. And more specifically, it was like 6 events.
Only 6?
I don't know, Ara, do you have the final count?
Many.
Many?
Lots.
More than one?
Yeah, it was somewhere around 6 or 7, yeah. Depends on whether or not you count Headband.
Depends on whether or not you count the charity auction, too.
Fair.
I think we need to call Getting Silverstream's VA to honk on Twitter as its own event, because that's a win in my book. Even if she still has no idea what it means. Hashtag honk.
Doesn't matter, she did it anyway. It's official.
Doesn't matter, got honked.
Yeah.
All right. So we had 3 constructed tournaments that took place at Everfree last weekend. But the 2 largest of these were the core constructed event, which also had a cut to top 8, and the Harmony Swiss event. We had a Sequestria block event, a Beyond block event, rather. But you'll hear towards the end of this stream why that may not be as relevant. Oops.
Oops.
Ah, well, what can you do? Anyway, do we want to start at the top and work our way down?
Sounds like a reasonable place to go.
Then let's kick it off with the top champion deck from the core constructed event.
Okay. Here we go. This is Biglows' deck, who was 2nd seed, and this is a Skystar white-blue list.
With a little purple.
Pretty sure that doesn't count.
Pretty sure that has to count. That's resource removal.
Is this the obligatory color debate?
Well, no, the color debate is satisfied in that, no, this deck would not count as purple because it has fewer than 5 cards with purple rec. It's just that the purple cards are very important.
Probably fair. Especially, well, you can watch the full recording for that bit, which was hilarious.
Yeah, this is a deck that Bugle calls PyGuard version 3.14. And it has produced some of the nastiest plays I've seen over the course of the tournament. Like turn 1 Angel Wings into Rainbow Dash on even ground.
That's mean.
After your opponent banked turn 1.
I mean, obviously.
Shouldn't have done that, clearly.
That's basically why I don't bank against blue now.
But this isn't blue, it's pink.
Doesn't matter.
But if he calls blue, then he knows what's coming.
If there's blue cards in the deck.
Yeah, Pages, I agree with you. That's some PTSD stuff right there. So the deck is clearly capable of being efficient as an aggro deck, but there's a few unique pieces in here that you might not find in either a pink-blue or a pink-white aggro list. Notably, we've got Torch Songs, Sopranos, and Party Favor perhaps being the biggest. I don't know if you want to call it offender. Pee-wee SD. Okay, Hithrock, you win. That's fantastic. And considering that,
STD.
no, just Pee-wee SD instead of PTSD for draining AT.
Yeah.
It's especially applicable given that 2 Pee-wees dropped in the game right next to that one and drained the 2 AT from the other game as well.
Yeah. That was kind of awful.
That was just a bad time all around. Supporting Favor is interesting here because it provides a method of replacing problems that also makes use of the fact that this deck can generate a large number of tokens with bodyguards. And it has a lot of small friends. And it really doesn't want to play 3-cost friends. And it can also get around blackmail. Because when you play Party Favor, you get to look at the top 2 cards of the problem deck and choose what happens to them, so you're guaranteed to not replace yourself into a terrible problem. And just in case your opponent removes any of your high-value cards like Sorin, or eventually Party Favor, or Bodyguards, or things, you've got Tender Taps to bring them back. And then just a ton of removal all throughout here. I am sad at no cadence.
It's like removal is good or something.
It is like removal is good or something. This deck has a lot of it. Friendship U. Ivory, you want to talk about Friendship U for a second?
Friendship U is a good card.
Friendship is you.
Friendship is you.
No, John, you are the friendship.
And then John was the friendship.
And then John was the friendship. But a cool list, one that takes advantage of Torch Song to grab Singing Barrel to use Rarity Soprano multiple times, disrupt your opponent's hand, clear their board, get rid of problematic friends, bring your own stuff back, and generally just go aggravatingly quickly given the amount of disruption it has. It's a very solid list.
Well, it took first place for a reason.
Yeah, it did. That's very true. Next deck.
Next up, we have yourself truly with Tempest Blue White. How do you even phrase that? Can't be yours truly. It's yourself truly? Whatever.
I'm not sure. I don't know what the proper grammar for that is. A friendship is you. Like that anime. I mean, this deck has not changed at all since BabsCon. Not even by a card. Cheese, you had the chance to play with a couple of these cards in a different deck earlier today. Would you care to share your thoughts?
I think that Daring Do is a good card. And that everyone should play it.
That's
Even if you're not running purple or blue.
You should find a way to put Daring Do in the deck.
Okay, probably not. But the things you can do with it, it's basically free movement.
Yeah, the fact that Daring Do is swift, so after a face-off, you get up to a problem for 1 and then gain that 1 when you confront, is clearly really good.
As long as you can confront.
Sure. But then the fact that you also gain those AT every time you confront just makes it silly.
It's fair.
It's a very
Especially
good
combined
card.
with some of Blue's problems, where it's like either agile or just move for free, and then it's just value. Like, it's not the same as having Twilights and like explicit AT generation, but it's pretty good, and I think in this deck it's actually better.
Then the paper twice?
Yeah, like, you've got a bit more troublemakers, so you actually care about your flip average a bit more. And You only have. Do you have the Dare and Do posters in here? Yes, you do. Okay, yeah. Yeah, you've got eight AT generators. Like, and also control needs to be confronting because the only point acceleration you have here is the Miss Main, right? Yeah.
There's 2 Daybreakers.
Sorry, you also have the Daybreakers. Yeah.
You and I play very similar lists in Harmony in terms of the basic Tempest White shell, and we just kind of diverge in different ways.
Yeah.
And the
Your
pink deck,
way worked much better against a deck we'll see later.
yes, that's true. But it trades that off for not having as much hard removal as yours does.
Yeah.
And also not as much card advantage. So
yeah.
We'll talk about that in a minute. Anyway, next deck.
Trade-offs. Let's see. Here we have another Tempest. Well, okay, let's just call this Tempest 5 oranges a color Alicorns.
Yeah, it is 5 colors. There is some orange in there, which was not overlooked. At least not at the very end.
Not at the end, there wasn't.
I think we saw the best play out of the entire tournament in this deck's game in top 8, where it was behind by a fair number of points when it went to soft time, and it played all 3 dilemmas, and it confronted all 3 dilemmas.
And both problems.
And scored like 6 points.
6 or 7 points in.
Was it enough to win?
It was enough to tie, and then the opponent got 1 more turn.
Oh yeah, okay. I remember.
Oh yeah, it was Anxious Animals that was up there. Yeah, it was super cool because it just chained confronts. So Anxious Animals allowed Industrial Revolution to be confronted, which allowed the other Industrial Revolution to be confronted, which allowed Sanctuary Construction to be confronted. It was just silly.
That was shenanigans.
Twilight Endless Friendship and Token Generation is kind of good or something.
Yeah.
And Flash Sentry reduces the cost of a lot of cards in this deck.
All but, I think...
This deck has too many colors.
It has 5 colors. It's not running pink, whatever.
It's Miss Main and Meadowbrook, and that's it.
Yeah.
Miss Main, Meadowbrook, and of course Flash himself.
He doesn't
So,
count.
the majority of friends in this deck can be played cheaper.
Correct. And so, banking turn 1 to play a Flash Sentry turn 2 to play a free Paper Twilight or play a Magical Pony or a Celestia or whatever you want is normally a spectacular line of play.
Yeah, except when your opponent goes turn 1 Angel Wings into Jerkface. And then you are a sad pony.
And then you are a sad pony.
That's why you do the Tempest thing, get the Grubber out, and then take away the jerk face.
Not wrong. So the deck is very cool.
And you're still sad.
Or they have a Fire of Friendship, and then you're really sad because then they've got entry and they named White anyway.
The secret is we're all just sad all the time.
It's true. This is why you play Control, so that you can be sad. You play aggro to be happy. You play Control to be sad.
Fundamentally.
Right? Fundamentally, Luna runs on spite.
What does Twilight run on? Books?
Wings.
Books.
Her hooves.
Books.
Books.
Voting books.
Fair. Books. Panicking. Twilighting.
Correct.
Twilight runs on twilighting. Also
Something,
true.
something, squid.
Yes, something squid. It's cool to see that Alicorns is still an evolving archetype within this meta. As much as I hate Brad, he's a good card.
That's not his name.
Does he have an alias on Ponyhead yet?
No.
We'll have to do something about that.
Yeah.
Next list.
Let's just go with the trader to the hive/orange named "You must construct additional pythons."
This deck needs to be banned.
Welcome to my locals.
Ban it.
Your locals sound terrible.
This deck is amazing.
Ban
This-
all the things.
This deck goes wide. Like, really, really wide.
But does it go thick?
Thorax goes thick.
How's a 20 power thorax sound to you? Thick?
Terrible.
Sounds amazing.
Ban it.
Especially with all that forced movement that's currently wandering around control. Oh, wait. There's like none. So this was interesting. Is this deck is capable of obviously starting problem face-offs with incredible ease, because with Applejack and Fluttershy treading water, almost every one of your friends, in fact, let me confirm here, yes, every one of your friends is going to be stuck at problems, which is great if you are able to produce more points than your opponent can. But the deck does not have a tremendous number of ways to deal with troublemakers, at least not epic troublemakers. It has 3 Industrial Revolutions, and it has 3 Friends Are Always There, which can deal with non-epics. But it has no Meadowbrooks. And so if one problem can be locked off by a troublemaker, because the deck flips pretty low, you end up with a bunch of characters stuck at one open problem, and your opponent can retaliate and DFO back. And if they can somehow get more point acceleration through that DFO than you can, then it's an interesting game.
See, you appear to be forgetting the day shifts, though, which means the trader
no.
is...
You don't forget the day shift. You banish the day shift. Every time. Every single time. Applejack and Fluttershy, whatever. Day shift? No. No es bueno.
So you've got to deal with those, otherwise the trader shows up at the problem as well, and then your troublemakers don't stick around very long. Not
Yes, fair
against
point.
20 power in the other direction.
Yes, that is a fair point. If Thorax can break through, you're going to have a bad time. I love the 2 desert roads in here. It's such a bold move, because all you've got is Fire of Friendship and the AJ and Fluttershy and the Honest Ponies. What were you saying, Cheese?
I said, and then it works out, and then you're like, what?
You just have to be a sorcerer. That's the secret here.
Be a changeling sorcerer. That's my next D&D class.
Skitter, I'm going to need you to make that cosplay reality. You need to be a changeling sorcerer next year.
Well, we'll leave this deck for Aura to continue to enjoy on a weekly basis.
Yeah, I don't want to deal with it. Someone else can deal with it.
I'm just gonna sigh at you.
You can take the bullet for the rest of us. If any of us deserve to face Thorax on a weekly basis, it's you.
So much hissing.
Next list.
Okay, I think this one's cheese with Tempest White pink. Different flavor of Tempest White.
Go for it, Cheese. Break it down for us.
Yeah, it's a deck. It loses to Pythons. But yeah, so this is very similar to the deck that GP was running, except that it's running pink instead of blue. And because it's running pink, it cares about things like Selena Blue, because cards are good. And flipping high is good. It also has some desks. It would rather have Bear Punch and Orange Swirl, but they kind of got banned. So.
Good riddance.
Womp womp.
And Bodyguards. And Bodyguards is really, really nice with School Shutdown. Just like, oh look, everybody's gone except for Wait. I have 1,000 unicorns. And I played some Trollmakers, and they're going to pop up next turn. And have fun trying to face off against them. I've gotten a lot of AT off those unicorns. And the difference here between this and BabsCon is that basically I dropped a Snow of Dusk and something else, maybe a bodyguard or something, to go up to having, I know it was a belly flop, to go up to having 2 school shutdowns and 2 magical misfires, which was very good against control. Didn't really matter against, like, mattered a little bit against Pythons having school shutdown, but it's just like, can play so many friends, it doesn't matter what you do.
Yeah, when the decks are going wide and they're able to go wide without needing to spend a tremendous amount of AT to reset.
Yeah.
School Shutdown is a good card, but it's expensive.
It is.
Well,
Also, hello, Pages.
can't hear.
Can't hear. Microphone possibly muted. Well, he's here. We'll figure it out.
This
I
will
do
become
li-
important later.
I do like this deck. I do like the pink variant against decks that rely more heavily on single threatening cards, because you just have better ways of getting rid of it.
Yeah.
And I think it does play the long game better. But Swiss rounds, I think, are sometimes harder. So.
Yeah, it's a meta call.
Mm-hmm.
Hello.
Hey, there he is.
Oh, nice. Hi. I just got back from work, so sorry, I'm a little late.
Oh no, it's fine. We talked about your Alicorn deck.
Ooh, that fun thing.
We also talked about Angel Wings and,
Yeah. So, the reason why I banked 2 was because I had the greediest opening hand. And I gotta go for it. And it bit me in the butt. But it's okay. I tried to go for it. You always gotta go for it.
Of course you do. Greed is good. Except when you get punished. And even then, greed is still good. It was just the opponent that was wrong.
That
Does it mean
logic
who
is
was
pretty
wrong?
fantastic there.
No, is it me who's being too greedy? No.
No, it's the opponents who are wrong. Alright, next list. There's something special about this list, if I recall correctly.
This is Smithers with a Baluna orange deck. Now, he handed this in, a physical deck list on a piece of actual A4 paper. Not letter, A4. That thing came all the way from Great Britain.
It's impressive. That is some dedicated preparation. Printing out a physical copy of the deck list before an international flight.
On a weird kind of paper.
Heck, even bothering to print out a deck list. That takes some forethought.
Right? Why not just share links?
No, what you do is you print out a physical deck list and then change your mind last minute and have to write a new one out anyway.
Now what you do is you get your entire deck list tattooed on your chest. So when your opponent says, "Let me see your deck list," you just flex at them.
Weird flex, but okay.
Yeah, I was waiting for that.
You walked right into that one.
I set you up for that one. If you didn't think that was exactly where I was going, you don't know me very well. Anyway.
Weird
let's-
flex, but okay.
Damn it. Let's talk about this list here. Luna, she goes fast. Orange also goes fast?
Goes fast.
Question mark?
Goes fast when first mate mullet is involved.
Yeah, Wonderbolt Stadium is a great way to save some AT too. Nice split on the dilemmas. Big max for resource removal, better than trashed.
Mhm.
Thunder Lane passes the Thunder Lane test.
Are you sure?
Just barely.
Not as much anymore.
It is a little tricky because the deck does run slightly light on color entry into its secondary color. But otherwise, it can generate a lot of power and it can go very quickly. Thunderlane is just a tricky card to play in the current meta where so much single target removal at immediate speed exists, because he's definitely one of the most powerful cards you have along with First Mate Mullet. So you've got to be very careful to try to protect them as best you can.
I mean, this seems fine. He's got a trading traditions here.
Mm-hmm. Bailout can deal with opposing mains quite nicely, and is a great answer against Fluttershy Nurturing Nature, who can be kind of a pain to deal with if you're playing an opposing aggro deck.
The game against this using Nurturing Nature came down to who could run faster.
Yep.
Unfortunately, blue generally tends to run a little bit faster than yellow.
Yeah, Night Gliders and Loyal Ponies and all that free movement will do it sometimes. But always a fan of seeing the blue-orange to come out of our friends across the pond.
Yes.
Next list.
Here we have Richard with a Skystar Orange White list. And I believe this is fairly close to one of the decks that we saw at BabsCon.
Mm-hmm. Should be within about a card or so, if anything.
Did we see any decks at PAPSCon?
No.
Okay. I didn't think we did.
So this is just chock full of all the usual annoying stuff here. We've got a Bake Down,
Desert Grid.
Sopranos.
Only one grubber. Interesting.
Party Hards.
This does look annoying. Berry Punch.
Backup Dancers. Bodyguards. I mean, it's an irritating deck.
Yeah.
It has a lot of removal, and it disrupts a lot of your opponent's hand.
Makes it very difficult if you want to do much with your exhausted friends. Mostly because you won't have them for more than a couple of turns.
By the way, that's why Daring Do is so good.
She doesn't turn sideways.
She does not turn sideways. Unless Fume drops, and then she might turn sideways.
Seems sad.
Meh. Unless Backup Dancers drops, then she definitely turns sideways.
Remember, kids, always turn your cards sideways.
Because she becomes exhausted. Which technically puts an exhaustion counter on them, but almost every player in this game is willing to represent by turning the card sideways.
I want to meet the guy who brings exhaustion counters to
There are
an
people.
event.
I've seen it happen.
There are people who do that, yes.
And it's fine. That's what the rules say. But it is an understood, implied shortcut between players.
Yes.
Next list.
Let's see, I think
Sure.
the last of our core lists is Ivory with the mono Fluttershy list.
With some jank.
It's mono yellow, all right.
Hey, look, Bunyip. You know what's fun?
Bunyips.
Playing 2 Bunyips.
You know what's even better? 3 Bunyips.
Bunyips
And
are
then unfrightening them all. And then doing it again.
No, what's even better is remembering that Bunyips have Swift. So they cost 3 to get up back to the problem, not 4.
Correct.
Because it is
Yona
so...
also has Swift.
There isn't really a whole lot surprising here. This is actually identical to the list I ran for Store Champs this past Store Champs season. It's yellow. Fluttershy most of the time will stay at home, just contributing her power to whichever problem she needs to. And fast yellow friends will do the rest. Also, Aloe is colorless.
Thank you. 2 in the colorless
Disagree.
court.
Disagree.
2 in the colorless court.
I think I agree.
3 in the colorless court.
I
I will. I can't acknowledge. I can't acknowledge whether or not aloe is yellow. And the chat erupts with argument. Fantastic.
This is my plan all along
Why you do this?
because it's funny.
This is a terrible plan.
So we
You
were
brought
actually
this on yourself.
discussing something with Fluttershy earlier today that would be a lot of fun to try before format rotation, or rather within the core format, because that won't be affected by it at all. And that is play Fluttershy Orange and run like Igneous Rock and Cloudy Quartz and Applejack's Worst Nightmare, and actually have your Fluttershy up at a problem and have her contribute to the other problem, but give her stubborn.
That's a lot of setup.
It's like 2 cards.
But one of them is a problem.
Or a friend. Igneous Rock and Cloudy Quartz.
Yo, I choose to believe.
Right? The power of belief. Cheese didn't believe earlier today, and I told him to have the power of belief, and it worked.
There we go.
Well, we'll talk about that in a little bit, though.
Yes, we will.
The belief is strong.
Incidentally, if you take a look at this list, the Aloes, the Philomenas, the Marble Pies, and the Industrial Revolutions are the only cards that have to be removed if you want to turn this into a Defender's block deck.
Spoilers?
Spoilers. It's kind of fast.
It's pretty fast.
All right. So that completes the top 8 of our core championship at Everfree last weekend. Want to jump on over to Harmony and let the degeneracy flow?
I don't know. Sounds good.
Pages.
Hi.
Not yet. Not yet.
Yes.
All right.
Not yet.
This is his.
Oh, that's fair. Okay.
This is his.
It was just piloted on his behalf.
Yes.
Do you have the image for this?
Oh my god.
I think we need to put the image up.
I'll see what I can do. Hold on.
In the
Continue.
meantime, Pages, walk us through this this 6-color deck that you have entitled "Oops, All Bombs."
Okay, so some of you may remember from I think it was the first event of the year, which would have been Vancouver Pony Expo, which is the last time I came on the stream and talked about the deck I ran, which was exactly this deck except for 2 cards. Now, what happened was, with about 10 minutes before the start of the Harmony tournament, one of our good friends was looking for a deck to play, and I said, here, play this deck, and I pulled this one out. The difference between this build and the Vancouver Pony Expo build is that this build is missing 2 Nightmare Moons. Half because I knew that there would be a ton of Nightmare Moons in other people's decks, and also half because my own deck required my Nightmare Moons. So I just subbed in extra Alicorns in and gave it to him, and he somehow managed to win. So it's 6-color Reanimator. I checked, it should be 6 colors. Not making that mistake again, hopefully.
No,
But-
it is. You've got both of the Alicorns from this set, so it's definitely 6 colors.
So the general idea is you dump cards into your discard pile really fast, either with your opponent's Nightmare Moons or with your orange or white entry cards, like Apple Bloom or Who's His Face, Smolder, and Sandbar. And then you dump hopefully something giant, some kind of bomb, and then you quickly get it back from the discard pile directly into play using something like discard pile or redeeming qualities or something like that. Therefore, you get bombs, giant dudes, way faster than you should be. and then you just go to town. Unfortunately, I don't think this deck ever made it to stream, which was kind of funny. But I have it on good faith that it performed quite well.
Well, it took first in the Harmony tournament, so.
I'd call that doing quite well.
And if there's one thing I can say that I love most about this deck, it is the meme that it has spawned. There have been some great memes from the last two cons, but this one is one of my favorites. Ara, do we want to showcase that?
Oops, all bombs.
Sweet Reanimator deck list.
We need this printed on a wall scroll.
The super hacked together, like not polished at all version of this.
Yes.
I think that
So-
just makes it better.
Just so we can give it to Pinky and be like, here, you get to figure out how to get this back to Texas.
It really does.
And this
So,
can't have nice things.
speaking of not having nice things,
You want to talk about
we
not having nice things?
can talk about not having nice things.
You want to talk about some Tempest White?
Let's talk about some Tempest White.
Okay, let's talk about some Tempest White.
So you know how Old Money and Twilight and Rarity are kind of irritating in core? Well,
No.
what if... yes, you do. Yes, you do. Don't you lie to me. Well, what if you could portal them forever with Minuet? And what if portaling them with Minuet also meant that you could get back any card you wanted from your discard pile with Trenderhoof?
That'd be pretty cool.
And what if you could have any event you wanted sitting in an untouchable zone that your opponent couldn't mess with, that you could play whenever you needed to? And what if Destiny Drain?
Trenderhoof was a mistake.
Trenderhoof was a mistake as a character and a worse mistake as a card.
I'm just
Yeah.
mad about things.
The deck is super good, though. It does lots of silly things. It generates lots of AT. It portals lots of cards. It wipes boards. It surgically removes sea poppies. And only sea poppies. And it trashes hands. Feels good.
Unless you're on the
Jeez.
other side of the table.
Cheese can confirm.
Yeah.
Because this is second and third. Same deck, exactly.
So let's jump down to fourth.
In fourth, we've got Max with Fluttershy Blue, named Fluttershy's Pegasus Gang.
Does it have? No, it doesn't. Shoes. Shoe shine? That's
Shushan?
what I was thinking.
Yes.
Does not
No,
have
it
Shoe
does not
Shine.
have shoe shines.
Does not have Shoe Shine the Destroyer.
It
But it
doesn't
has
make a ton of
Cloud Chasing
tokens.
Flitter.
It doesn't make a ton of tokens, though.
Whatever. Shoe shine's hungry.
Nom nom nom.
Eat everything,
Even the Night Gliders
especially the letters, right?
and the Chrissy that is likely having copied Night Glider at the time of being consumed.
Have Chrissy copy Swinging Wonders. That seems great.
That's what I'd do.
I love 2-bits. I want to play that card more often.
So Max says in the chat there that there was Shoe Shine. But entry.
Yeah, as I remember playtesting against this deck a lot, one of his issues was that he would get cut off a blue entry quite often. So he had to just sacrifice explosiveness for more consistency.
That's fair. And you get a lot of power through both of the multicolor cards from Friends Forever. Cloud Chaser and Flitter and Rainbow Dash and Fluttershy are good. Let's go with good.
Potential understatement.
Cool list, though. Next one.
Nice angry looking aggro desk. All right, next up we've got an Apple Vendor Blue list. I think that just barely squeaks in for being called blue. Yes.
So, side note, this is a deck that this person has been running since Crystal Games
Forever.
era.
Yeah.
He has been fine-tuning it for every Harmony meta since. And I am pleased to see that it still performs pretty well.
Yeah, the smart cookies. Why is he only running 2 smart cookies?
Because this also has Zap Apples in there.
I'd be running 3 of smart cookies. Yeah, he got both smart cookies out against me, and so I had to keep killing his discard pile. Which I did. So, it ended up fine, but...
You had a time getting there.
Yeah.
This seems like it might be kind of hard to... Well, I guess it's not that bad. You've got the farm airs, so you can use that, or the smart cookies in order to get the character up to 5 power. Or the snails. That's fair. That's not that bad, I guess. Pie from the Sky in this deck, though. Let's count. Pegasus, Earth Pony, Earth Pony, Earth Pony, Earth Pony, Earth Pony, Earth Pony, Unicorn, Earth Pony, Earth Pony.
It's a lot of Earth Ponies.
I like 4 power for 1 AT.
It's admittedly not real bad.
And then banishing that card to give another 3 power. So, 7 power for 1 AT. That's Muffin Mare levels of power right there.
It seems good.
Yep. Speaking of Muffin Mare levels of power, there's also Vital Stand and Apple Bloom Bloomception. So, that's also kind of a thing. Yeah. Cool list.
All right.
All right. Do we want to hold off on this one for the lead into the thing we want to show and just jump down to 8th for a quick sec?
Nah.
Nah, we'll just go right in here.
Yeah, like the real disappointment here is that I don't have the John Cena horns on quick draw here.
Don't voice that on me.
Oh my god. All right. Oh, stop it.
Poppy!
So, we had 2 people running with RNG.deck. We had Richards and Pages. The first one is Richard, because there is a small difference, but you know what? What's important here is that you have to believe.
Yeah, you do.
Can
Bad
you-
things happen if you don't.
Can you talk to us about the power of belief?
Sure. Alright, so I made this deck originally just because I thought it was a fun jank deck. And that was 1 year ago.
And you were
then-
wrong.
And
It's a fun competitive deck.
turns out I was wrong. I don't particularly know how, but it got there. I guess I just had to believe hard enough for it to work. I did write a primer for this deck, this archetype. It's somewhere on the subreddit, along with all the other meme posts that were made.
It's actually not just somewhere on the subreddit. It's here, and I think we're going to provide a link to it in a moment. If you have not read this primer, even if you don't plan on playing this deck, you need to read this primer. It is one of the funniest things I've ever read.
Why, thank you. So I think this deck has been covered before. I think on the last on the BabsCon, And I guess also at the store championships streams. But generally, it's it's kind of straightforward, but kind of not. You just want to keep Poppy around as long as you can, and then you got to believe that you hit the 1 in 8 or 1 in 7 or 1 in 6 or whatever 1 in X chance that you have to score extra points, because, well, that's how you play. It's no longer cards, it's dice. And rolling dice and trying to guess what's gonna happen. And sometimes you just gotta stick by your guns.
Would you endorse Richard's plan of always bet on 1?
Yes, I do. But on one hand, it's faster because you don't always have to think about, oh man, like what number should I pick this time? You always choose 1, and it's pretty simple. However, in my opinion, it's less fun.
Now, there is one question I have, having read through that primer. You mentioned towards the beginning that this is a deck that people should play if they understand how probability works.
Yes.
But you also mentioned that this is a deck that people should not play if they understand how probability works.
Yes.
So,
sometimes ignorance is bliss.
And they should also not play if they don't understand how probability works.
Sometimes ignorance is bliss. That's all I can say.
Okay.
And they should definitely not play if they don't believe.
Maybe you'd be like, you pick the same number every time. And, eventually you'll land on black or something. Or it'll land on that number, right? I was trying to make a roulette analogy, but...
Understood.
And sometimes you just gotta believe that, you'll hit that magic number at some point.
And I mean, worst case scenario, Nightmare Moon and Yellow Paris Bright still win games.
Oh yeah. There's a lot of weird plays that happen with this deck. I call them feels bad plays sometimes. Because you kind of feel bad for having to play it like this, but if you want to actually progress in the game, you kind of have to. It interacts very interestingly with other decks. There was a game against I think it was Biglows deck, which involved a rarity truly outrageous interacting with Sea Poppy. Sorry, not Sea Poppy. Interacting with Flurry Heart.
Oh, right, and because it would be replaced.
You can't replace costs.
Yeah, so it couldn't move.
Except that Flurry Heart sent her home. On was it on a problem confront or something like that? I don't remember what happened, but there was a lot of yelling involved.
Yeah, the fact that Flurry Heart even existed in that case, if it was the first move, should have meant that rarity couldn't have been used because the cost would have been replaced. But
yeah, I don't exactly remember what happened. There was a lot of shenanigans going on, as is the case with this deck. I think on stream, whenever this deck has been played on stream, it's always had to play either itself in the mirror match, which is a whole nother ball game, or it plays a combo or control matchup. I would like to, and really, this deck really shines when you play against an aggro deck. The shenanigans get kind of a little crazier. A lot of weird interactions happen. Sometimes judges need to be called more often.
All the time judges need to be called more often?
All the time. Maybe. Usually it's like after you kind of learn how the cards interact, then the judge calls stop happening, but then something else comes up and you have to call them over again. But, that stuff needs to get fleshed out a little bit.
Yeah, that's fair.
One of the most satisfying things about playing this deck is when your opponent does something like has one card in hand, and then you play Royal Spyglass.
Yes.
And then realization sets in.
And they're like, wow, that card is worth a point. And it cost you a card slot to play it, and that's it.
Or also when you have like when they're like 2 Nightmare Moons out or Nightmare Moon Yellow Parasprite, and they have no cards in hand. So they draw the card, and then they have to discard the card to a random effect.
And then you're like, haha.
Yes, and then I'm like, yes, I'll score a point, and then realization sets in.
Yep.
So yes, you can rig probability in your favor if you can, if you know how. Honestly, it's not that hard to do so. You just have to go through a little bit of setup and hopefully not trashing your own seed poppies to discard.
Hopefully not.
You just have to believe.
You just gotta believe that you draw them at exactly the right time.
Well,
That's really what the deck is about. You just gotta. It doesn't look like it should do anything or works, but you know, all the pieces or just things just fall into your favor.
If
Well,
you
I would thank you for bringing us this deck, but you know,
But I won't.
but
you
I'm not going to.
I believe the difference between Richard's list and my list is he has an extra singing barrel in place of Fire Friendship.
Correct.
I think yes, that's right.
Yeah, you run a 1-3 split.
Yes, and I like to run the 1-3 split because I believe that with all the Nightmare Moons running around and discard, that Fire Friendship helps me just a bit more.
Yeah.
I bought in a bit of extra tech since BabsCon, so I believe I put in a single copy of Juggling Routine, just because there's a lot more discard going around the field lately. And also I believe a Lacking Lesson Plans in the problem deck because there's a lot more troublemakers running around, and sometimes if I want to, that one extra point that you could get from confronting is can be crucial.
Fair enough. All right, let's take a look at the 8th place deck from the Harmony tournament.
All right, here we've got Jen with a mono Scootaloo deck.
Scoots!
I hate that break in Ponyhead.
It's amazing.
There are some Pegasi here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
There are
all of
7, 8, 9, 10. Yes, all Pegasi. Every last one.
Oops, all Pegasi.
And none of the Teamwork Pegasi.
Oh, those are all multicolor.
No, the Mono Blue Scootaloo is a Harmony, or sorry, not Teamwork. The Mono Blue Scootaloo Harmony.
I'm sticking with on that one. Because we all know that it's all about the chillaxes.
Hey, look, more 2 bits. I like that card. Yep, it's Mono Blue aggro. It has Pegasi and it goes fast. And it has Pegasi that make more Pegasi.
That also go fast.
That also go fast.
Gotta go fast.
Also jerk face, because no banking for you.
Correct.
If I'm going to use all my AT, you're using it too.
You're not wrong.
All right, I think that's all of the decks off of the Current Harmony tournaments. So I believe we have a few other things to discuss, yes?
Yeah, I think we've got 3 announcements here towards the end, some of which people may have already seen. What's the first one?
It looks here like we get some rules updates.
We do indeed. But nothing banned this time.
Not sure.
That means
happy or
I can-
glad.
Well, it means I can keep using Thorax, so that's a good thing.
There is always the fear that Aura's incessant hissing will eventually lead to drastic action.
I mean, I almost convinced him to make Headband an official format by telling him it wasn't a real format.
Don't you do it, Aura.
Don't feed this Parasprite here.
Don't feed the Parasprite. The
like
rules
Parasprite.
update this time around were relatively straightforward. A couple fixes to cards that were worded incorrectly, and I'm sure there will be more that will come in the future. Let's hit the big ones though. So there was a change in how modifiers that affect the amount of AT you paid to do things can be stacked. Because previously, it was kind of disappointing. If you had one modifier that said you may pay one less to play, a friend, and you had another modifier that said you may pay one less to play a friend to a minimum of one, there was never a way that you were going to be able to stack those modifiers to reduce the cost of that friend to nothing, regardless of timestamp order, because one was dependent on the other. Now what can you do?
After all opposing modifiers that affect costs to be paid have been applied, you may apply yours in any order, which means you can choose to have the to a minimum of one applied prior to the straight reduction and reduce it to 0. So this is much less confusing and allows players to always get the maximum benefit out of their cost reductions.
Yeah, previously there was this weird gap in the amount of AT that you would pay to play friends of particular costs if you had like an Angel Wings and a Cadence or a similar style effect. And now that doesn't happen. Or players can choose to have it not happen. Cheese, there was a rule that was added here that you wanted to be sure was there. About a certain series of numbers, like 1 and 04 and
3.
0.3. Yeah.
4 and 5. And is this the one that fixes the thing? Oh yeah, 1 and 4.3. Yeah, so we fixed the issue where cars were designed to allow recursion, but at the cost of banishing things. But it turned out that due to an interesting interaction in the rules, that's not actually how things happened. And so we changed it so that it now actually happens. And the change is that the exact wording, what is it? It's, I forget the exact wording, but essentially, if a card would be sent to the banish zone and a card instead
if a card would go to the discard pile and another modifier would send it to the banish zone.
Yeah, if the game would send a card to the discard pile, and another card would replace that with going to the banish zone, it actually goes to the banish zone now, even though it's done by the game.
Though I think there was also a case where there was a possibility of it landing in your hand with a certain set of cards.
Yes, and I think this also affects the wording now also affects the hand, which is some really weird case. I think it happens like one situation, but
yes, but basically it's intended to just shut the 104.3 combo engine down because that was not an intended interaction there.
Yeah.
It was also basically the definition of rules lawyering.
Yeah. So this made all those cards that, like, What's Old is New Again and Hoity Toity, and are those the only two? Might be some others.
Nope, that's it.
That's it? Yeah. So it makes them work as intended. You can do stuff from discard pile, but no matter what, anything that would go to the discard pile, it's going to get banished.
So that affects the comprehensive rules update. As far as tournament floor rules, there were 2 big changes this time around. The first one was related to tiebreakers.
Ties aren't losses anymore.
Not tiebreakers, rather, ties.
Yeah, ties aren't losses anymore.
Ties are better than losses?
Yes, ties are worth 1 point, whereas losses are now worth 0.
And wins are still worth 3?
Wins are still worth 3, of course.
Okay.
What this does is it means that a tie is more valuable than a loss, but it is less valuable than, for example, either player winning.
Yeah. So this means that you're no longer in a situation where it is better to concede than it is to tie.
That's good.
Of course she does.
Yes, Fluttershy still flips the problem in the Nightmare format. And Gallus still disappears into the Aether if you run that copy.
Correct.
Yeah, Gallus is by far the best one.
The
Yep.
blank card is the best one.
There was one other change which really isn't going to adjust that much as far as the core format goes right now, but is going to make another change. Aura, what's going on with formats and blocks?
It I guess the best way to put this is Equestrian Odysseys, High Magic, and Marks in Time. Each of them had a third of the 15 possible 2-color combinations. With those 3 sets completion, the multicolor cycle was done, and further sets beyond that included many or all 15 2-color combinations within them. And this represents a pretty significant change in design philosophy, because if you rotate out, say, one of those 3 sets without rotating the others, it feels weird. And it also feels slightly inappropriate to rotate more than that. So we've moved the block delineations from between Defenders and Sequestria to between Marks and Defenders. So those 3, EO through Marks, will rotate out together, leaving us with the first set to change design philosophy after them, Defenders, with the remaining sets.
Interesting. And in the meantime, what does this mean for the Sequestria block format, or the Beyond block format that we ran at Everfree?
It no longer exists and got replaced with Defender's block.
Defender's block adds more cards.
It does add more cards.
Spicy.
It adds more mains.
It does add more mains. Mono Twilight can have a main now.
I kind of want a chance to play this format. How can I play this format?
Well, you can start by going to and signing up for the Deco tournament.
This is our 3rd format in the series of Coco and Heiko.
Yes. And hopefully, the players will have a bit of fun with this because it opens the field up a little bit more. You have more mains, more cards, more opportunities to find interesting interactions. Pink, for example, gets a little bit of love with the reintroduction of Belly Flop. And yes, Ponyhead has already been updated to show you both the old the old Beyond block as well as the new Defenders block.
Although I think the new Defenders block has a few cards that need to be removed from it.
Yes. The bans have not been affected on any of the formats yet. Partially because I can't figure out how to represent them internally. Ha!
So, Deco, which will be running here in about a week or so, a little more than a week, I think, is going to be a great time. But what if I want to play in person? And what if I want some sweet new promos?
Well, then you should probably sign up for Store Champs, huh?
Did you say Store Champs?
No, I said C Poppy's a good pony.
Oh yeah.
See, Poppy is a good pony, and she can be a good pony at Store Champs. For the second time in the same year. For the first time in like 5 years.
Yay!
Yay, Store Champs. So Store Champs are
Can
coming.
we do a premiere block store champs? I think that would be fun.
No.
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 But you can do Store Championships in both Core, Harmony, and Defenders block formats. By the time Store Championships roll around, which is going to be the last 2 weekends in June, so June 21st through the 23rd and June 28th through the 30th, the rules changes will be in effect. And that will mean that you can choose to play in any of those formats.
I know we're not making family rules tournaments. Don't even ask.
Sorry, Max.
And I know we had a lot of people over the last week who were kind of asking us about, are there going to be promos? Are there going to be different promos? What are the promos going to be? Promos.
Promos? Did someone say
Promos?
promos? I said promos. How about this promo?
Oh, it's adorable.
I'll take 10.
I'll take all of them.
But you
That's
think
a
we're
good-
done? No, we're not done.
No?
No. Gotta ask them tough questions.
Like, how do 2 flurry hearts work?
And how do you become a princess anyway?
Strange ponies floating in space distributing wings is no basis for a system of government.
I never noticed that was the flavor text. That's amazing.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty sure it is, just saying.
That flavor text, I'm pretty certain was one of Princess Rob's contributions.
Hmm.
Yeah. So those are going to be the 2 promos that'll be coming around for Store Championships. Top 8 is going to be Tough Questions, and participation promos are going to be Starlight Glimmer Guidance Counselor.
Guidance counselor. A scary card.
This is a scary card. It's a good card. So make sure to sign up. We've linked the sign-up form in the sidebar. We'll be building the map over the next couple of weeks and obviously want to get your store on the map as soon as possible. If you do not have a physical location that you can play at, and you would still like to run a store championship event, we can provide you with product to run a local championship event, but we do ask that you try to include or involve your local game store if at all possible.
Yes, having a place to play common to multiple players is usually good.
Yes. So hopefully we'll see many of you sign up. Just as before, we are providing price support at no cost inside the US and only at the cost of shipping outside the US. Speak to us if you need us to ship outside the US. We will arrange things. But I think that's about going to wrap up our stream for today, unless I'm missing anything.
I
You're
don't know.
missing everything.
Do you believe?
I do believe. I have the power of belief and anime on my side.
That's
Rawr.
just too strong.
Poppy is still a bad card. It's just in a good deck.
You know, I think that I agree with that quote, actually.
So you're saying if I removed Poppy from the deck, it would still function perfectly fine?
I'm saying that Poppy on its own is not a good card. Poppy in that deck makes the deck good.
You know, it's hard to say Poppy is a bad card, though. She's 3 cost and 4 power, and that's pretty good.
I also think that's how build around cards work.
Yeah, that's kind of true.
Just make sure you never draw one ever. That's what's gonna happen. And
Let's
then
just
you'll be
ban
sad.
Poppy.
I mean, I've never actually played against the deck ever. So
Yeah, you have.
when
BabsCon.
did I?
Yeah.
I don't know if you
remember
did.
this.
I don't know if you did.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, it was actually its first matchup at that con because you were playing.
Pile.
Pile.
Right, you just hadn't played it with the
Oh,
Tempest list.
Yes.
That's what it was.
Yes.
Yes, you have played against it, and you almost won. It was very close.
Yeah.
Actually, some people have been asking me why I don't put Pinkie Pie Every Pony's PFF into that deck.
Why don't you put Pinkie Pie?
Well, yes, it is nice in that it kind of immediately fetches up Sea Poppy whenever you need it. But the main issues I found with Every Pony's PFF is I think it's a 4 requirement card.
It is.
Correct.
Yeah, so that means you can't like turn 1 Angel Wings into it.
That's fair.
If I'm counting correctly.
Correct.
And yeah, so that slows it down just a little bit. And also, I believe that with the sheer amount of card advantage you have just from DJ Pony and Lead Pony badge, that you'll probably draw into it more often than not.
You did include it in the sideboard under the I can't into Poppy section, though.
Yes, that's when you really can't into Poppy. When like if you were playing a more slow control style build, maybe with less aggressive options, maybe some more Trollmaker or something like that, then yes, I would probably put it in that kind of build.
Cool. All right, well, that will wrap up our discussion for today. We would like, of course, to give a big shout out to all of our patrons on Patreon. Thank you so much for your regular support, and if you aren't currently a patron but you enjoy what we do, please consider donating. Doing so does enable us to continue making content like this and running events like Everfree. If you have comments or questions you'd like to send our way, or if you're just interested in hearing about what we're working on for the future, there are many ways you can stay in contact. We have our Patreon, as mentioned previously, but you can also reach us through our Facebook, Twitter, and email. And patrons at or above the $5 per month level also get access to our Slack channel, where you can chat live with us any day, anytime. Sick or healthy, awake or sleeping, someone will answer.
Especially if it's combo o'clock.
It hasn't been combo o'clock in a long time. I think we need to bring that back.
It needs to always be combo o'clock.
Truth. If you're looking to watch any of our previous videos, including tournament recordings, you can find them on our YouTube channel, linked in the sidebar, and please make sure to subscribe so we can actually have a channel URL that's a little easier to remember. We're right on the cusp of it. But with all that said, thank you to each and every one of our viewers, both here now and watching this recording later. We are, as always, Commentary as Magic. I am, as always, Grand Pause.
Nice.
Hush.
Big cheese.
Cat. And
Ivory Starlight, pronouncing the name correctly.
Ooh, got him. And I'm
Throw-
Pages.
Throwing shade. And we'll see you all in a couple weeks to talk about what the heck we're going to play for Store Champs.
And about how we believe.
The power of belief.
I didn't. And that was a big mistake.
Have a good night, everybody.
just gotta believe.